Elden Ring lore. Yeah, boys. Yeah, boys, we're doing it, okay? If you've never played Elden Ring, let me just tell you something right now. Do it. Okay? Do it. Let me hit you with that Emperor Palpatine. Do it. Dude, it's so good. It is one of the single greatest games to be released within the past 2 decades, okay? I know it looks difficult, and that's why it is, but in the words of the people that got me involved in FromSoft, get good or leave, okay? That is the design philosophy of FromSoft, and understand, that also applies to its lore. Yes, I do believe the story of Elden Ring, when you finally decipher it, is one of the best in gaming. But here's the problem. You need to be a goober without a social life, and talks to a camera for a living to be able to do so. And for the sake of your enjoyment and your understanding, I am going to explain the lore of Elden Ring in really the simplest way possible. No. Don't expect this to be an in-depth video where I talk to you like Lovecraftian ASMR. And that's not me throwing a saw at the goat Vadi. I just have a different way of saying things, okay? There's probably going to be some things that I'm not going to go super in-depth in. All this video is meant to do is give you a understanding of how this universe works, what is going on, and the biggest question of all, can I canonically get with Ranni the Witch because I want Blue Mommy, okay? I'm sorry, I got that from Halo, dude. Those Cortana scenes turned something on in me as a child that got me into blue women. And when I saw Ranni the Lunar Princess, I knew something was up, okay? Where was I? That's the type of video you're going to be getting into, okay? Brief outline of how this video is going to work, okay? This is going to be a timeline-style video where we cover everything from the Elden Ring Big Bang to what I think the canon ending is of Elden Ring, plus a few other things. Oh, another thing I'm doing for this video. Randomly throughout the video, either I'm going to clap or snap. We're going to go to me on a whiteboard, attempting to illustrate to you this with very, very poorly done graphs and pictures, because my yapping is going to be put to the test in this video, because some of this stuff I just won't be able to explain without visualizing, okay? And with all that out of the way, let's get into the lore of Elden Ring. Let's go. Number one, if I'm going to attempt to explain Elden Ring to you, I need to lay out some of the basic background of how this world works. Number one, okay, to tie it into real life, what is the Elden Ring Big Bang? It is the uncreatively named the Great Fracture, okay? In the beginning of everything was one, okay? No. This is where a little bit of theory crafting is going to come into play, because the Elden Ring fandom, first off, the Elden Ring lore makers kept everything very, very vague when it comes to this time, so it intentionally caused some infighting. What I think is the original one was basically just the universe in one entity, okay? I know that sounds weird, but I like to think of it was signified by basically the hand of God. Yes, that is a Berserk reference. That is another reason why I do believe God in this universe probably looks like just a hand. There is so many finger symbolisms in this game, and a lot of Berserk references. I'm just going to assume that the God figure of this universe at the beginning of time was something that looked like the God hand, or the hand from Super Smash Bros. Another reason why I think this is right after the Great Fracture, it created 2 of the major entities, basically those powerful entities in this universe, that being the Greater Will and the Three Fingers. Now, to move it over again, the Greater Will and Frenzy. Yes, the 2 fingers is meant to be like the translators of the Greater Will, and the 3 fingers is just the harbinger of Frenzy. Okay, basic rundown. The Greater Will is essentially like Morgan Freeman from that Steve Carell Ark movie, where he kind of just comes in, tells you what to do. But the twist is here, only the 2 fingers can translate it, basically hitting you with that sign language, trying to get you to understand that you are going to be the prophet of the coming age. Yes, that is essentially what those 2 fingers are used for. Now, the 3 fingers and the Frenzy, much less cool. Way less cool. You see, where the Greater Will wants to create things, and does sound like Morgan Freeman in my mind, this is just trying to destroy everything. Actually, to make it more specific, burn everything down until it becomes one again. Yes, the 3 fingers essentially just wants to make everything one, returning to what everything was before the Great Fracture or the Big Bang. Think of this as like the anti-greater will, where the will wants creation. The three fingers says, F that, that's kind of dumb, bro. I want everything to be one again, okay? Because consciousness is stupid. That's essentially what Frenzy is. Yes, this is canonically one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful thing in the entire verse, even beating out the greater will. So these two are the major forces in the universe. I'm probably going to do a little whiteboard session right about now. Actually, let's try that. Thank you, Whiteboard Ethan. Okay, another thing that I probably didn't cover in there is gods. This is another weird part about Elden Ring lore, okay? They also wrote basically like the Greek pantheon mixed with I don't even know. Like the Greek pantheon, but with like Game of Thrones level of inbreeding. That's essentially what you're getting inside of this lore, but damn does it not hit so hard, okay? There's a lot of outer gods. There's a rot outer god. There's a death outer god that's a different from the other death god that's for the other ones. There's a lot of people that are basically death, okay? There's the death blight birds. There's the... Frenzy's not one of them, but Frenzy's more of like a god of gods destruction force. But there's a lot of them, okay? But for the sake of this video, the major one that we're going to be covering is the major player, that being the Elden Beast, okay? But before we even get there, we actually have to go back even further. Hello, what it do? Semi-sleep deprived, or more importantly, future Ethan here. For the entirety of this segment, I mistakenly called Placidusax Parthenax. And the reason why that is I was really thinking about Skyrim today, because I just think it's kind of funny that, like, the two main head honcho dragons in Elder Scrolls, Skyrim is a dragon with the P for the first letter of his name in Parthenax, and then in Elden Ring with Placidusax. And I'm going to be real, I just got those two conflated, so anyone who's like, wait a minute, Parthenax, where have I heard that before? That's the talking dragon, that's the brother to Alduin inside of Skyrim. So yeah, I'm gonna take my bad on this one. I'm sorry if I put any of you guys in a Caesar with this horrible mistake. Am I going to redo that? Probably not. Why? Because the jokes were too good and I was in a flow state there. The only thing I messed up was I called Placidusax Parthenax. So every single time I say Parthenax, replace that mentally with Placidusax. Hope you're enjoying the video, and I'm gonna send you back right now. This would effectively be the second, like, big cornerstone of our timeline, which was the earliest civilization that we know of, that being the dragons. Yes, the prehistoric, the dinosaur equivalent in Elden Ring is dragons, which makes it very easy for me to explain this to you, because they went out very, very similarly. But let me describe the dragon, the draconic order really quick, okay? Before early humans were kind of moseying around doing their own thing, it was the dragons and the beastmen, okay? And their capital was something called Farum Mazula, where they reigned over the rest of the lands between. But even then, it probably wasn't called the lands between, okay? You had the ancient dragons, which were basically like, think of like dragons from, I'm trying to think of a good equivalent. Let's just say D&D, the ones that like can talk to you. And their like main head honcho was a guy named Parthenax, okay? And Parthenax what was getting jiggy with their dragon god that we still don't know the name from. We just know that he bounced one time, and he is effectively the Jesus of all of the dragons, okay? And things were going good for a very, very long time, okay? That's another thing that you kind of have to, like, not think about for too much, is how much time is passing in between here. We're talking millennia of time. Thousands of years are occurring during this dragon age, okay? So long, in fact, that the dragons went from being like normal beasts to the beastmen of Farum Mazula. And they discovered ways of metalworking that did not require smithing, which I don't even know what that would be, okay? That's where a lot of the dragon smithing stone comes from. What I imagine this is they would use like the dragon smithing stones to like sharpen pieces of metal, and that was their way of smithing. Because smithing was invented by another group of people that we'll cover later on in the timeline, but that hasn't happened yet, okay? So dragons are having an absolutely amazing time, okay? Yeah, there's a little bit of fighting here and there, but for the most part, pretty chill. That is until the cataclysm came, yes. Just like how the dragons got absolutely no-diffed by a space rock, the Dragon Order got nailed from the sky, and it decked Farum Mazula like a basketball hitting a newborn child, okay? Just destroyed it in the middle of the sky, causing it to become the crumbling city of Farum Mazula, okay? And this is known as the Great Cataclysm, which brought a lot of, like, the Alabaster Lords, which are just dark gravity people, and a lot of the gravity magic. Now, again, I have to preface, this is the theory crafting part. I'm probably gonna miss one of these, and some Elden Ring lore fanatic is gonna have a stroke in the comment section, and you are entitled to that. But this is where my theory crafting's coming in, okay? Because the Elden Beast, this guy, came to Earth from the Golden Meteor. So let me get this straight. Like, we know the Elden Beast is not native to Earth, is effectively an alien that came from the Golden Meteor. And when the Cataclysm came, the meteorite hit Farum Mazula, it not only caused the ending of the Dragon Age, that'd be tough enough, it caused their god to disappear. That is quite literally never elaborated on. Whatever hit them was so scary, it caused the god of the dragons to, quote-unquote, disappear. I'm going to wager that was the Elden Beast, or the Elden Ring, they are effectively the same thing, crash landing in the earth, and I'm going to send you over to the whiteboard, because I think this was the thing that destroyed the Great Tree. And now I'm going to try to explain to you that the Great Tree and the Gold Tree that you see in the game are not actually the same thing. It's a little bit more complicated than that. I'm going to send you over to whiteboard me. Alright, welcome. Now I'm going to attempt to explain to you that, yes, there is a difference between the Great Tree, the Crucible, and the Eardtree. And I'm going to try to do this in the simplest way possible. Okay, number one, we can see off context clues that the Great Tree existed before the Eardtree because... No, if you disagree with me, I just want to ask you this question real quick. Why do you think that the Eardtree has normal roots? No, like, genuine question. The entire tree is holographic. Mind you, the entire tree is holographic. Except for the trunk and the roots. When you go underground, you can literally see the roots of the Great Tree. So I'm going to assume that it was a real tree at some point. We also know that the Crucible was the primordial version, or the before, of what the Eardtree was. So we know from context clues the Crucible came before the Eardtree. Now, the Great Tree was something like a bigger version of the Holly Great Tree that Mikola lives in. Like, dude, there's literally a tree, a physical tree that somebody has that's massive. Don't do the ninja thing. This existed first, and then a cataclysm came, and I do believe the cataclysm was the Golden Meteor because there's only 2 times that a meteorite is referenced, and it's either the cataclysm that brought the Alabaster Lords, or 2, the Golden Meteor that brought the Elden Ring. I do believe, at the end of the Age of Dragons, the Golden Meteor came in, destroyed Farum Mazula because it was in its pathway, caused the Placidusax's dragon god to leave him, and that's why he got all depressed. And it also destroyed the Great Tree, turning it into the Crucible while the Elden Ring was the tree was growing around the Elden Ring, and that's what created the Crucible and a lot of the Crucible magic. It was the primordial magic of the Eardtree. And when Marika ascends to godhood, that is what brings the Eardtree. And now I'm going to break your mind really quick. The only people who can see the Great Eardtree are the people who follow the Golden Order. For example, the dragons don't see it, and the giants don't see it. So, this is almost imaginary, and it's only a thing that you can see if you follow the Golden Order, and there you go. Now, I just explained to you the 3 separate trees in Elden Ring. I'm going to send you back right now. Now that I spent a probably solid 2 to 3 minutes trying to explain to you the different trees in Elden Ring and how they're all kind of different, let's go to something a little bit less crazy, and that is the fact that the dragons have time control, or at bare minimum have a domain expansion where they can lock themselves out of time. Yeah, okay, in the simplest way possible, Parthenax was so hurt that his dragon mommy left him, that he decided to open a domain expansion outside of time in the Eye of the Storm, where he would just wait for the next coming of his dragon god. But before that happened, the dragons were getting kind of angry that their crumbling city of Farum Mazula became the crumbling city, and there was a little bit of civil wars going on at the time, okay? And the dragons were, having a little bit of tussle, and one of these dragons was a guy named Baal. Yes, Baal the Dread. You see, this guy strolled up to Parthenax and was like, "Ayo, Dragon Mommy don't like you anymore. We're gonna run this fade. Let's go, little bro." And then they proceeded to fight. And Baelth Dread got so effed up he lost a leg and most of his wings are gone. However, Paarthurnax, the four-headed dragon, became the two-headed dragon after trying to fight Bael. And then after Bael lost, Bael was like, you know what, man, I'm out of here. Skadoose. And then Paarthurnax at that point decided to go along with his domain expansion plan, probably because he didn't want to fight the other dragons because he realized he was too injured, and he was hardcore coping that his dragon god was going to come back. So Paarthurnax effectively leaves the story for the remainder of the lore until we get into the end game. So Paarthurnax leaves the story, the Age of the Dragons is finally to an end, and this is where early man finally starts making, like, their moves along the Beastman and a few other creatures. So we've effectively moved to the third part in the timeline, which was early humanity. So this is the early humanity portion of the video. This is where a lot of those buried cities come from. Oh yeah, that's another thing that, like, I'm sure other Elden Ring lore people would have spent 15 minutes on, and it probably deserves 15 minutes. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that was built in Elden Ring, we either don't know when it was built, who it was built by, or bada bing, bada boom, it's just there, okay? Like, for example, a lot of the architecture that's built in Caelid, yeah, the place that got nuked by a rot bomb later on in the timeline, oh yeah, most of that's built by most of the Beastmen, because it looks like the crumbling city of Farum Azulus. Man didn't make those things. Now, a lot of the buried cities underneath Liurnium, and just like Nokron, all these other areas, these were built by early humans, okay? And this was known as the Age of the Dynast, okay? And this is where, if I'm gonna get something wildly wrong, it's probably gonna be in this portion, because this is the portion that's left the most vague. This is effectively the Greek era of the Elden Ring timeline. There was lots of gods. This is where the rock god, there was like this, the death birds have their own god that isn't the Glomite Queen, which is his own god that comes on later in the timeline. There's a lot going on here, and all I'm just going to say is most of them don't really mean anything to the story until we come later on, and they're like a one-time, "Ayo, what's up? Boom, beat." They're kind of like a Naruto boss of the week. And it's just meant to illustrate to you that there's many gods with many demigods that existed with them that didn't really stand the test of time. It's just to explain and illustrate to you how old the world of Elden Ring is, that there was a whole world built on top of it, and then we built over it. So really, there's not a lot that happens here. However, to tie it back to the tree thing that I showed you earlier, this was where I do believe there was a great tree that existed at the beginning of the Age of the Dragons, and then the tree probably got hit by the cataclysm and or the golden comet or golden meteor and caused it to get destroyed, and then the crucible, as we understand it, started to grow around the Elden Ring, because the Crucible and the Great Tree and the Elden Ring are three separate entities. I'm hoping you guys remember the whiteboard session that I had told you. Okay, we know the Crucible was the primordial version, so the same thing, just a different version of what the Golden Eardtree was, and the Great Tree was just a separate organism that got hijacked by effectively an alien. Yes, the Elden Ring is an alien that was sent from the cosmos. And we'll talk about more of that later on, because, oh my goodness, I'm just now realizing how much that we're going to be getting into, okay? But now that you guys basically know how the tree works, let's get into some of the other factions that existed at this time, that being the Giants. You see, the Giants, we don't know where they came from, but we know they tried to settle in the mountaintops that later became the mountaintops of the Giants. And they had a war with one of the remaining factions of the Dragons, which was the Ice Dragons. The Ice Dragon that you see when you're playing Elden Ring is one of the last remaining Ice Dragons to exist from this long-forgotten war. And the Giants wanted to fight this guy because they wanted to live up there. I mean, frankly, yes, they just wanted to live up there. And the Giants ended up winning because the Dragons didn't have Paarthurnax or the Ancient Dragons to help them out, because they had a generational fall-off. I mean, how do you go from wielding lightning to just blowing cold air on stuff? Just saying, bro, you got absolutely decimated by the Giants. And this caused the start of the Giants' religion, worshipping something known as the Fell God. No, it is not called the Fell God. The Fell God is not its name, but Marika made it so their god's name is forgotten to time. Because Marika, as you're going to find out, is top 10 pettiest moms of all time. Just going to say extremely petty. So, Fell God at this time is what taught the Giants how to smith, and the Giants then taught humanity how to smith. Early humans that were coming out of the Dynast age, okay? So Giants and humanity were kind of getting along right here. The Beastmen were kind of just minding their own business. And there was another group of people called the Hornsent that were basically just worshipping the Crucible at this time, where that was forming at the stump of the once known Great Tree. So Hornsent were doing their thing. The Giants were worshipping their fire god, where they built a grand cauldron that had the power, a little bit of foreshadowing, to burn away other gods. That is what we call foreshadowing in the business, and that's going to come into play later on. So the Giants are vibing with early humans. Early humans send some people up to the mountaintops where they learn basic astrology. And yes, in the Elden Ring universe, astrology is essentially magic. So, send this to an astrology woman that says isn't going to date you because you're a Cancer and she's an Aquarius and you guys don't mend well, and tell that bitch that I guess he knows magic now. Yes, I'm not kidding. Astrology is effectively magic in the Elden Ring universe, and old humans and Giants were like, hey, yo, bro, you give us smithing stuff, we'll give you magic. Adios, my man. No, we're going to skip ahead a good couple thousand years, probably about 100,000 years. A lot of time has passed to the astrologist people. The early humans that were learning magic started going south because they were like, yo, the mountaintops are cold, and we invented something called a telescope where we can just, look at the stars from a lower point on the planet, okay? So we're going to migrate south to the lakes of Liurnia. Yes, this was the establishing of the Carian royal family and the Ryalucaria Academy of Magic. Basically, the magic nerds, or otherwise Hogwarts, but in the world of Elden Ring. That is what started this. So early humans were starting to get a go with things. We're getting into almost a modern era. The Giants were experiencing a golden age where their fell god was giving them gifts, the gift of smithing, and everybody was kind of vibing. Even the Hornsent, I guess, were doing some good stuff, like, they really liked theater and art. They had a lion puppet that, more or less was pretty scary, and they spent a lot of their time brutalizing a group of people called the Saman, which, according to them, didn't come from this earth. They were Numen. I'm getting into a lot of the finer stuff. Basically, the Hornsent were like another group of people that, you'll see what happens later on, were really brutalizing and harming this group of people called the Samans, which may or may not come to bite them in the butt later on. Another thing that was going on was a guy named Hora Lu was leading a group of people that were going to come to be known as the Tarnished into wars all across the lands between, decimating kingdoms that stood for hundreds of years and just all around being an absolute chad. Okay, I'm going to send you over to Whiteboard Ethan to explain, where is everybody. Basically, I'm going to give you a Game of Thrones map of what's going on. I'm going to send you over there right now. Alright, so here is my beautifully drawn map of the lands between to give you a rough idea of the factions that are going around before the rise of Marika and the Golden Order. Number one, representing the dragons, it is pink because of how bad they fell off. They basically are relegated to Farum Azula. Don't get me wrong, there's a few isolated dragons throughout the lands between. The most notable one was the Frost Dragons that went against the Giants, and the Giants won. So the Giants were effectively able to claim the mountaintops of the Giant. This was when Giants and early man first got to meet each other, and the first astrologers meet along this border because they really liked astrology and it gave them magic, so they kept on doing it over and over. So that's essentially where this all comes into play, and they got along for a while. There's a few factions that I am excluding, like the Bug People of Liurnia, because this was during the time of the Rock Goddess, the Beastmen of Caelid, because a lot of the architecture in Caelid is from the Beastmen. It's the same style as Farum Azula. And I'm gonna insert a theory here. You can disregard this if you want. I believe that the Hornsent, the people that are from the Land of Shadows, were once a part of the continent of the lands between, because I'm just gonna say, the Realm of Shadows perfectly lines up with the map of Elden Ring. I understand it's a fan theory, but like, I'm gonna say later that the entirety of the Realm of Shadows is a physical place that was put in basically a pocket dimension by Marika when she ascended into godhood because she was really angry at him. So, I believe that the Hornsent were at bare minimum at least close to the actual, like, lands between. Not to mention that all the Gates of Divinity are surrounding this one area, and I do believe parts of the Gates of Divinity, at bare minimum, were built by somebody that was associated with the Hornsent because they were around. Everybody seems to not know, and what that means to me is that Marika was trying to erase their history along with their people by making it so nobody knew where the Gates of Divinity came from. Now, there's a few problems with this. I acknowledge that it's a fan theory, however, it does work really well. But this is a rough outline of how everything was going on. Yes, I'm aware dragons were here, there. This is just meant to give you an idea of what was going on currently in this time in the history of Elden Ring. With all that out of the way, I'm going to send you back right now. Now that you have a basic Game of Thrones understanding of where everything is and the different factions that are at play, probably a few added ones because I probably did get something wrong when I was naming them off or just forgot something. Now we're going to get into the next big part of the timeline, and that was the ascension of the Golden Mommy, otherwise known as Marika the Eternal. Yes, she comes this late in the timeline, okay? So Marika was born a Newman, a group of people that is supposedly came from a different world. If you think I'm going to elaborate on that, no. No, there's like, I don't even know what that was supposed to mean. But, for the sake of this story, she came from a group of people of Samans, which were essentially the gypsies of the Hornsent Kingdom. And the Hornsent hated these people. They hated them, bro. The Hornsent were basically the Persians, and honestly, that's probably the best comparison I've ever made, like real life history. The Hornsent are essentially Persians that didn't have a lot of religious acceptance. There was a dude back then that was essentially a librarian that found out about the Frenzy, the Frenzy, the other main devil of the story. Yeah, this is where he comes into play. A librarian found out about Frenzy. And the scary part about Frenzy is the more you know about it, the more powerful it can become and it can manifest in your reality. Think Cthulhu, but more fiery. And the Hornsent were so terrified of this guy that they essentially just kind of locked him away in this one swamp where they kind of just never bothered him again because they were like, hey, we have no way of getting rid of the Frenzy, and it can burn down the Crucible, which is our god. We're kind of just going to leave him there. But, these Saman people that believe in us, like a medical god, yeah, bro, fuck them. We're going to grind up their people and put them in the pots with other criminals to make basically slaves. Yes, the pot people inside of the Shadow of the Eardtree DLC, okay, that I may or may not be able to show you, are criminals of the Hornsent grounded up into a paste and mixed with the blood of Newmans. So yeah, maybe I would be pretty mad too if I was Marika, okay? And Marika hit the absolute luckiest pick, the luckiest pull in the entirety of the Elden Ring universe, and that was the two fingers, the messengers of God, the greater will, chose her to become an Empyrean. And okay. Don't give me, I'm going to have a full pyramid after I explain a few other players or factions of what is everything. All you got to know, Empyreans are basically, you just spawn in with the ability to become God. You have the ability to become God, but it's kind of up to you if you want to pursue it. And if you think to yourself, why wouldn't I want to pursue it? You'll understand why in a second. So, as becoming an Empyrean, the two fingers kind of came up to her and said, "Hey, you have a purpose now. You're going to be in charge of establishing the Great Eardtree, the Golden Order, and we're going to give you a dog mixed with your DNA. His name's Malekith." Yes, Malekith is essentially the half-brother of Marika, but a furry. Yes, they're called shadow-bound beasts, okay? Meant to stay by your shadow. You find out later that what these things actually are is essentially your own private winter soldier. If you ever step out of line and try to go against the greater will, your shadow-bound beast is going to run up on you and just one-shot you from behind. Okay? No homo. That is what Malekith is to Marika, and I can assume she was given him at this point because all the other Empyreans got their shadow-bound beast before they ever ascended to godhood, so it was a relatively quick thing. I think the moment that Marika was chosen to become god, they gave her Malekith as kind of like a bodyguard. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to skip a few things because they're left very vague. Marika somehow gets to this place called the Gates of Divinity and ascends to godhood. Okay, theory crafting time. Okay, I'm injecting this in right now. I'm going to give 3 Elden Ring lore masters a stroke. This is what I think. Feel free to debunk me. I believe Marika ascended to godhood with a guy named Radagon. Yes, I believe Radagon at some point was a separate person, and they joined together as one person to ascend into godhood at this point in time, okay? It is explained multiple times that whenever a new order is established or a new god is created, they either need or very much want a consort. This happened with Marika with, again, Radagon and Godfrey that comes later on in the story. This also happens near the tail end of the story with Miquella and Radahn. That's a whole other... Man, dude, we are going to be getting into some tough lore later on into this. So I believe, off of what we've seen, Marika got with Radagon, somebody who came from this place that was dominated by the Hornsent, and they both ascended to godhood together and became basically just one person. You find out that Radagon and Marika are essentially the same person sharing one body, and I do believe that's the case, and it doesn't really break canon of what happens later on, and it makes a lot of things make sense. Like Mesmer being born. Yes, the first demigod to come into the story was a guy named Mesmer, okay? And Mesmer, I believe, is the son of Marika and Radagon, because we know Marika's the mom. Every other child that was born of Marika and Radagon is super inbred because they're effectively the same person. And Mesmer's pretty inbred because he literally has a snake that lives inside of him, that being a serpent of a forgotten god. Yes, okay? Yeah, that's essentially Mesmer, okay? Mesmer was dealt a very dirty hand at the beginning, was their little inbred child that has a lot of mommy issues later on in the story, but apparently was a super chill dude to his siblings that haven't been born yet. The only other one that is rumored because of some cut dialogue that happened in the DLC is Mesmer was brothers with Melina, but that was cut because I think they're going to do an Elden Ring 2 and finally explain what Melina is. I'm honestly probably not going to explain Melina in here because everything about her is either decanonized or left very, very vague to the point where she's not even a player in the story. So, at this point in the story, I might send you the whiteboard, Ethan, if there's a cut, that's why. Marika has ascended to godhood, has beef with the people called the Hornsent, got her first baby daddy in Radagon and had a child in Mesmer. And now the Golden Order has now existed in the lands between. Boom, the Golden Order has begun. The great Eardtree is now visible to only the people that believe in it. The best way that I can explain this to you is if you guys ever read Berserk, you know that great tree that returns when Griffith comes back? Yeah, that's essentially what happened. So imagine this, okay? You're just minding your own business, and then the Roman Empire spawns in out of absolutely nowhere and says, "Hey, yo, bro, I'm God. Worship me." Everybody stood against the Great Eardtree in the beginning of its order. That is a real quote, by the way. Everybody hated the Golden Tree. Everybody hated the Golden Order, bro. Everybody was like, who is this guy? Now, another thing that happened that I'm not exactly sure how they did it was when the Eardtree became golden and ascended into the sky, Marika used the shadow of it to turn the Hornsent's kingdom into essentially a pocket dimension. Yes, he has the power to do that. How do I know this? Because that is the only thing that makes sense. She shrouded the Hornsent's land in shadows where they were effectively taken off the board in a separate domain out of time, which I'm going to keep it real with you, is so terrifying. Imagine waking up and your entire town is in a separate timeline that you can't leave because you were really mean to one group of people. That's insane, and Marika did that because that's the only thing that makes sense for the Shadow of the Eardtree, or the Realm of Shadows that later comes in with the DLC. So Marika, with her new followers, probably some of the Saman people, a few militant groups that the Golden Order kind of created out of nowhere. That's where the Tree Sentinels kind of come into play. And Marika, kind of without a real military, decides, ayo, Radagon's cool and all, and I got a kid out of it, and I ascended in the godhood, but ayo, Radagon, let me take over for a second, where Marika became the dominator of the body. No homo. Actually, no, that's not even homo. Where she became the dominant force of the body, and Marika was kind of the main person walking around, decided, ayo, I need a new mans, and I need this new mans to have a military built into the relationship. That way, when I marry in, I am entitled to all of his military, and will give him some title like the first Elden Lord, even though technically he isn't. you see what I'm saying here? That's where Hoarah comes back into the story. Yes, Hoarah is Godfrey. I think most of you guys knew that, but if for anybody who didn't at this point, that's the reveal. So Hoarah, finding out that this 7-foot-tall blonde woman was trying to get with him, said, bet! What do I have to do? Oh, I need to be more godly in acting? Okay, how about this? I slay the Beast Regent Saras, which was basically the Nemean lion from Hercules, and I'm going to box him into submission, but instead of icing Saras, I'm going to graft him onto my back. What grafting is they essentially just sew him onto his back. Why did he do that? To become more chill. Hoarah was such a menace that he had to kill basically the Lion of Fury to sew him onto his back so he would become more chill to get with Marika. And yes, canonically speaking, Godfrey was getting some with Marika while a lion was stitched to his back. Yes, that is a real thing that happened. It is weird, but you love it because that's a really, really funny visual. Okay? So Godfrey strolls up, gets with Marika, becomes the first Elden Lord, and that is where the first 3 children of the Golden Lineage are born, Godwyn and Mogan Morgott. You tell me which one's the favorite, bro, okay? Godwyn the Golden. Godwyn has all of the glaze that this game has ever had, and is the favored child of Marika. Marika fucking loves this kid, loves him. What about Mogan Morgott? Mogan Morgott are known as the Omen brothers, and they were born with horns sprouting out of basically every part of their body, and Marika was so disgusted giving birth to them, she wanted to cut all the horns off of them and basically just have them die. Like, legitimately was like, nah, they can die. Nah, I can make another one. I hit them with an Omni-Man. Let's just make another one. But Godfrey, being the Giga Chad dad that he was, said, ayo, maybe we don't ice them. We just put them in the sewers because I'm their dad. And where I come from, we don't actually hate the Crucible because, yes, the omens are created by the Crucible because the Crucible, essentially, even though the Eardtree was like the dominant force in Elden Ring at this time, there was a few problems where the Crucible would like make a being that they weren't supposed to. And these defects were known as omens, okay? So the omen children were born. It's just a matter of absolute shitty luck that Mogan Morgott, demigods at this point, were also omens, okay? And Marika hated him, tried to ice him, as I said. Godfrey came in and was like, ayo, no, they're my kids, they can live, but they're gonna have to live in the sewers. But in where I come from, strength reigns above all, and they can be strong and they can defend the Eardtree. And Marika, at this point, was like, ayo, I kind of need this guy. Whatever, we can keep him alive. They won't be able to do anything. So, ayo, babe, I'll keep him alive, but I need you to do something for me. And Godfrey, being the simp that he was like, ayo, I know that I told you to become more godly, but I really need you to take your tribe of people and go to war with the giants. Why? Because the giants worship this thing called the Fell God. I'm calling it that because we don't know what the actual name was. That has a cauldron that could burn down the Eardtree. That's a big no-no. So, if you want more God Coochie, all you gotta do is take my son Mesmer and you and your tribe, and all you gotta do is, I don't know, kill every single giant that's ever existed except for one, so we can seal their god inside of him, basically trapping both of them for all of eternity. Yeah, very, very small ask of Marika. But Godfrey said, Ayo, bet, I'm always ready to run a fade. Take Mesmer, this edgelord that walks really weird because he has a serpent that lives inside of him. Yeah, I'll take him and we can go fight the giants. Also, but I'm gonna do one thing. Marika, at this point, was probably like, what, babe? I'm gonna, you know how you hate the Crucible? I'm gonna start a group of Special Forces Knights called the Crucible Knights, and I'm going to have 16 of them, and them alone are going to be able to take on the giants along with my tribe of Tarnished. Yeah, that's where the Crucible Knights come from. They were started by Godfrey as his crusade against the giants first began, because he didn't really hate the Crucible, and he said that, hey, oh yeah, no, we kind of need them to take them out. So that's where the war with the giants has begun. While Mesmer and Godfrey were sent up to go fight the giants, there's gonna be a little bit of weirdness with the timeline here, but we do know one of the next things that happened was the Golden Order went to war with the Carian royal family. Yes, you know the nerds that studied astrology for magic? Yeah. Those guys established a royal family known as the Carian royal family in Raya Lucaria, where they had magic. And Marika, at this point, either sent Radagon or became Radagon and led an army of people to go attack the Carian royal family. And this was apparently so stalemated, so back and forth, that they eventually just said, hey, how about I just marry your queen? Can we just do that? Ayo, Radagon, come out here. I need you to go get some 9-foot-tall woman preggers so we can form a bond between them and the Golden Order, because we don't really want to go with war with them anymore. So yes, Radagon and Rennala. She has a sister named R'hllana, because George R.R. Martin loves to name things so similar that it gives me a stroke. If I get it wrong, there's going to be a name over here that corrects me. So Rennala and Radagon have communion, and they give birth to the next 3 demigod characters, or as I like to call them, the Daddy Issues Trio. That being Rykard, Radahn, and Ranni. Yes, this is where the blue chick Ranni, that's a doll. Yes, he's born here. Okay, I understand there's a lot that you have to commit to memory. I'm going to send you to the whiteboard in a second. There's only a few more demigods that have to be born, and then I can give you the family tree and their little Pokemon abilities, okay? Just bear with me. While all this is going on, Marika has commissioned her most loyal followers to start building Leyndell. And one of the first things that they do is they bury the 3 fingers at the very bottom of it. Yes, the 3 fingers at the beginning of time that had basically the devil of the Elden Ring universe. Yes, they're buried at the very bottom of Leyndell to keep them away as much as they possibly can, because the Greater Will only really fears one thing, and that is the 3 fingers. Yeah, so yeah, they're just burying on top of them and building Leyndell, which is going to be known as the capital of the Golden Lineage, the Great Eardtree, many names. Marika's basically house, okay? That's where Leyndell is being built as this entire thing is going on, okay? I'm probably going to send you to the whiteboard to show you the military map. Probably right about now. Alright, and here is your Game of Thrones battle map of what is currently going on in the lands between. Number 1, the dragons have long since fallen off and pretty much relegated themselves to Farum Azula, hanging out with the Beastmen until the coming of their dragon god, yada yada yada. Placidusacs keep on coping in your domain expansion. The giants are over here worshipping their fell god who taught them smithing, and they used to get along with humanity, and the Carians went from being astrologers, and they migrated down to the lakes of Liurnia and founded the Carian royal family in the Raya Lucaria Academy, yada yada yada. I already told you all that. At this point, Marika has ascended to godhood and has started the Eardtree Wars. When everything started, everybody stood in opposition of the Eardtree. That's a real quote, by the way. And they founded their capital, Leyndell, right about here. Now, all of this is blank because these were the lesser factions. Like, number 1, we know Godfrey took out the Stormverd of Stormvale Castle. We also know that he slayed the beast Syrah somewhere down here. And we know he was able to conquer a castle called Castle Morn because he's a Chad. But this is unclear whether he did this before or after, and I'm going to assume a lot of this was just conquered territory when he was Hoaralue, and then it was claimed by Marika during the marriage, because even in a fantasy universe, divorce law is still a thing. So, at this point, Godfrey is a part of Marika. This is their territory, and they send Mesmer and Godfrey to go to war with the giants to claim the mountaintops. And Radagon is sent to conquer the Carians. Again, the dragons have been completely taken out of here. I don't know. I'm filming this all after the fact, so I don't know if I already told you what happens, but I think you can assume what happens based off what you're doing when you're playing the game. And this is essentially the war that is going on. Now I'm going to send you back to me yapping right now. Okay, now that you're back from the military map, I probably should have just told you, oh yeah, Mesmer earned his name Mesmer the Impaler because he impaled all of the giants that he slayed. Godfrey was able to beat the other giants just by being a G, and they took out all the giants except for one of them, sealing the Fell God inside of it, kind of like Yuji Itadori holding Sukuna. Basically, that's what happened, okay? While Radagon was clapping royal cheeks in the Carian royal family, giving birth to 3 children, it's at this point in the conflict that the Golden Order was kind of like, ayo, we won, there's a few other things that we gotta take care of, but for the most part, I think we're gonna be good, okay? Now, in order to satiate all parties involved, they make Radagon and Ranala's marriage binding, making Rani, Rykard, and Radon honorary demigods into the family, where they're basically just given jobs that I'll cover later on in here. There's just a few other events that occur, and then we'll get into that. Family drama time. Yes, no. So this is where most of, like, the surface layer stuff is now known. This is, like, the stuff that directly pertains to you as the Tarnished, because this is how y'all were created, okay? So, to wrap it up real quickly, you know Godfrey, you know, the warrior Chad that got to, get with a golden, god, Marika the Eternal? Yeah. He apparently lost the motivation to fight while in retirement and got banished from the lands between after he lost his grace, okay? Listen, we could go on a full 10-minute rant trying to figure out how grace works. It's essentially kind of like your soul, but also like your passion. So when you lose it, you become graceless, and Godfrey lost his grace while being a warrior without a purpose because he destroyed all the enemies of the Golden Order. So he lost his grace. I also think Marika probably was not happy that Godfrey fought so hard for Moog and Morgott to be alive, because he tried to ice them straight out the womb. And I think we just gloss over how crazy that is. Marika, the mother, as he's referred to, Marika the Eternal, gave birth to twin boys and immediately said, ayo, I can make another one. Like, that's crazy how quick that switch up was. So, I don't rule out that that was maybe a factor in how easy she was willing to get rid of Godfrey, but it's not outright said. Godfrey, stripped of his grace, and his people, who became the first Tarnished. Yes, this is where you come in, at least your ancestors come in, and you are banished from the lands between, and then there was this whole legend, prophecy, that the Greater Will would give grace back to the Tarnished, and then they would then return to the lands between. Which tells me the Greater Will had an idea that Marika was going to do some stuff that was not so good, because that's a little something called foreshadowing that we call in the business. And, yeah, that's going to come in handy. Other family drama that's going on, because this is where I get to, things start lining up. Marika, you remember Marika and Radagon? Yeah. She recalls her old baby daddy, Radagon, to come in if they weren't already the same person. I know old comes from, like, one statue description. Marika and Radagon are the same person. And I'm here to tell you there's probably a little bit more nuance in there, because literally everything in Elden Ring lore has some nuance in it. And I believe that they were separate people at one point because of an event that's going to come in later on. So Radagon, who was getting with another 9-foot woman, decided, ayo, I guess I have to go back to Marika because she loves me. And he gets recalled back to Leyndell to rejoin Marika and once again become one to rule over the Golden Order. So he does that. Ranala is so sad that this happens, he goes into a pseudo-depression that starts the downfall of the Carian royal family. However, sorry for the weird cut there, my dog was going ballistic, but where was I? Oh yeah, so the 9-foot-tall magic woman that was the monarch of the Carian royal family lost her husband, and then she fell into a pseudo-depression that kickstarted the downfall of the Carian royal family. However, here's the problem. These people had 3 demigods at the time, that being the redheaded or the daddy issues trio. So, here's the issue. The Golden Order, who has lost Godfrey, still has Mesmer at this point, I do believe, has just recalled Radagon, the thing that was keeping peace between the Carian royal family and the Golden Order. So war is now bubbling up again. So Marika decides, ayo, well, me and Radagon are kind of the same person, so technically we didn't really break a peace agreement. I'm still kind of married to you, but to make everybody satiated here, how about this? I make your 3 demigod children that you made with my husband honorary demigods, and we're going to be giving them some good jobs, okay? Can we do that? Rennala didn't want to go to war with her husband, who is, C's finding out, is also Marika. So C's kind of like, okay, I guess I'll just be depressed now and then live inside. So, yeah, fine. We can have peace here. But the family drama did not start, because one of the first things that Radagon did with Marika when they got back together is they had 2 children, that being the inbred duo, Miquella and Malenia. Yeah, that's where Miquella comes in, okay? Miquella is essentially Griffith, but you're gonna find that out later on. Miquella and Malenia, the reason I call them the inbred duo is because if Radagon and Marika are technically the same person, then these are 2 gods who got together that are making this, like, think of inbred, but instead of getting with your sister, this is like you getting with your female self. Like, what do you think that creates? And what that creates is automatic Empyreans. Miquella and Malenia are born Empyreans, essentially, and then they just got re-chosen by the 2 fingers, making them Empyreans again, similar to how Marika was, and then she ascended to godhood with Radagon. That is also the reason I throw out the theory that Mesmer is also an Empyrean, which would make sense for something that happens later on in the story, because Mesmer was most likely born off Radagon and Marika, because who is the father of Mesmer, if not Radagon? I mean, he has red hair, too. Like, that's all I'm saying, bro. Radagon is the father of the red-headed trio, and all their dads was Radagon. That's all I'm saying, bro. Like, why would you give Mesmer red hair and allude to that he was the firstborn son if he's not an Empyrean and the son of Radagon and Marika? That's how I believe that whole situation worked out. And with all of that, now I can finally sew off the family tree on the whiteboard. So I'm going to do a little bit clap right about now. Now I can finally do this George R.R. Martin Greek mythology family tree for you. Okay, number 1, as I said before, Radagon and Marika were the first people to ascend to godhood, and using context clues, I'm going to infer that Mesmer and maybe Melina are the 2 firstborn demigods of this lineage. Okay, no. I'm taking some liberties with Melina because there was some cut dialogue for the DLC, but I'm going to assume that Mesmer is the child of Radagon because red hair. No, like, real talk. The entire red-headed trio right here, all redheads. I'm going to assume, kind of like Viltrumite DNA, red-headed DNA in the Elden Ring universe just overpowers every other hair. So Radagon, you are the father. Okay, now we skip ahead a little bit. Marika wants a new baby daddy. She wants a new type of man. She wants a warrior. Okay, my boys? She's gonna go for Godfrey. Godfrey, being the warrior Chad that he is gonna be like, bet, what do you need me to do, bae? I need you to be more chill. And then Godfrey's like, ayo, I heard I'm gonna go kill the beast regent Saras. Wow. This is some crazy lore here, okay? So they have 3 children, Godwyn, Mohg, Morgott, okay? Godwyn the Golden, Godwyn the Great, all of the names. And then Mohg and Morgott. They don't like them. Okay, so you want to go full Omni-Man on them, just destroy them from birth because they were born omens, but Godfrey saved them because he's a Giga Chad. And then Godfrey gets sent away. Marika either sends Radagon or turns in the Radagon and sends him to go conquer the Carians and Rennala. They decide, ayo, I heard smash the Carians, and Radagon said, let's do it. So they had their 3 children, Rykard, Radahn, and Ranni. All of them are demigods, and they all have, like, these weird abilities. Number 1, Radahn is super strong. He becomes a giant and learns gravity magic. Rykard's a nerd, where it's like, while you were getting women and going to the gym, I was studying literature. So he kind of becomes a nerd, but understands a bunch of, like, ancient magic and may or may not fall for the blasphemous lord of the world-devouring serpent, which is different from the base serpent that Mesmer has. Pay attention. And then Ranni is just Ranni. Lunar Princess Ranni and heir to the Carian royal family, and that's them. And then Marika Ditsin Godfrey is like, yo, I need my old man's back. Ayo, Radagon, come over here. He comes back, they become honorary demigods to save the peace, and then they have 2 more children, Miquella and Melania. And now I'm going to go through their abilities super quickly. Number 1, let's go. Mesmer might be an Empyrean because all of the rest of them are Empyreans, and also has the power of the Base Serpent, which is different than the World-Devouring Serpent, which makes him almost an equal to Marika herself, okay? He's a threat. And then we got Godwyn, Mogan, Morgott. They both have omen powers from the Ancient Crucible, but on top of that, not really much. They're also demigods. Godwyn, we don't know a lot, but we know he was powerful enough to one-shot Grandsax, the only dragon that the Ancient Dragons had left that they sent, and also had a friend dragon. You know, Godwyn is kind of like Poseidon and Zeus mixed together, so pretty damn powerful. And then we have the red-headed trio. As I said, Rykard is a genius when it comes to discovering magic, and he becomes kind of like Praetor Rykard, the commissioner of Leyndell, punishment of blasphemers. And then we got Radahn, who wants to become the new Godfrey and Mesmer. So Radahn learns how to be a warrior and gravity magic so he doesn't destroy his little horse friend. Ranni also knows how to use traditional carrion magic, but is also an Empyrean like Miquella, which we'll cover in a second. Pretty damn powerful, but because she's an Empyrean. Melina, I'm like 50% sure she's actually related. Miquella is forever 12 years old. That's a boy, by the way, and has the power to make anybody love him. And he made a gold needle that just had the ability to tell all the outer gods, hey, yo, don't Miquellest me. But he also has the power to Miquellest people. Melania was possessed by the rock goddess, which is why Miquella created the golden needle, but Melania also has the powers of a rock goddess, and probably is an Empyrean before she forego her Empyrean blood. And then we have Godric. He has a lot of arms. That's essentially it. Now I'm going to send you back, now that we got all this out of the way. I'm going to send you back right now. Okay, now that you're back and I've shown you the Game of Thrones, map of who everybody is, who they're related to, who they're not related to. Let's messy it up a little bit with a little something we call favoritism and inbreeding. Yes, this early it happened, okay? You see, at this point, another big family event occurred, which was the dragons were kind of like, yo, I'm sick and tired of this golden order thinking that they're the king of everything. Hey, yo, who's the biggest dragon that we got? Placidusax? No. He's still waiting for Sky Mommy. Who else do we have? Ayo, we got our boy Grandsax. You mean the big dragon that literally has a bolt of lightning? Yeah, bro, send him against Leyndell. So they sent Grandsax against Leyndell, and Godwyn was able to defeat him. That is how Godwyn became the favored son of Marika, and I'm not even kidding you. Literally, the entire lore of this time period is them glazing Godwyn. Godwyn the Golden. Godwyn the favored son. Godwyn the heir to the holy and golden lineage. Like, Godwyn glaze is so heavy, people want to fight him just to fraud check him. Just saying. But this wasn't Godwyn where he's at the base of the tree looking like a clam. This was Godwyn when he was apparently beautiful. Okay, so all hail Godwyn. Godwyn's really dope. Okay, let's go. And then at this point, Marika. Now this is where I'm throwing in my own interpretation. I should preface that at some points because this is left kind of vague. Marika decided, okay, I have a replacement. I have a good son. I don't like Mogan Morgott. Miquella and Melania, well, both of them are Empyreans. They can take over when I eventually go down. We got the red-headed trio, but we made them demigods and gave them jobs to ensure peace, so I can't really get rid of them. So I actually am doing pretty good, but I have to make sure Godwyn doesn't die, because Godwyn's my favorite kid. So what am I going to do? I'm going to send my furry bodyguard, my little winter soldier Malekith, to go claim destined death from the Glomide Queen and slay the Godskin Apostles. Now, there is a very little description on how this went down. This is all we really know. Glomide Queen was the old host of Destined Death, and Destined Death is a part of the Elden Ring and a part of the natural order that everybody who lives must die, including gods. And Malekith was sent, bada bing, bada boom, something happened, and Malekith became the new keeper of the Death Rune. when people do a lot of power scaling and where they put Malekith, Malekith is like technically one of the most powerful because he's one of the only beings that can kill gods. So that's why everybody feared Malekith, not because Malekith was like this amazing fighter. No. That's like everybody fearing me because I have a tactical nuke strapped onto a switchblade. Like, no, it's not because I'm an amazing fighter. It's because I have the ability to end existence. That is why Malekith is so feared, and he became the keeper of destined death, okay? And that was probably one of the biggest straws that Marika broke to the Greater Will, who at this point is kind of mad, so then they start choosing Empyreans. Miquella and Malenia are already guaranteed Empyreans because they were born of pure god bloodlines, okay? And then this is where probably one of the most important events that occurs that not enough people talk about. Ranni, the blue doll, at this point just a blue lunar princess, okay, is chosen as an Empyrean. So, if you're Marika, understand this. You have built up a golden order because you were made the prophet of the coming age. You have children. You have, like, seduced warrior barbarians to take out the giants. You took out the host of destined death. You were able to beat the Carrion royal family, and Godfrey, before he ever even ascended into Elden Lord, took out a lot of the lesser forces. The Age of the Dragons has fallen off, so you're the de facto only one left. And then, the Two Fingers, influenced by the Greater Will, are like, hey, you've been kind of pissing us off lately, so you know what I'm gonna do? Yeah, the unwanted child, Lunar Princess Ranni, we're gonna make her an Empyrean, so if you ever F up too much, she can take over. However, because we did this with you, we are going to install a failsafe into all of your Empyreans, okay? We're going to give them a Shadowbound Beast. And again, to wrap it back, Shadowbound Beast is like Malekith and Blide. They're just half, like, if I took half of your DNA and blended it with a furry and made them go through the Super Soldier's serum and test and made them your own private Winter Soldier, that's essentially what these things are. So the Two Fingers, the Greater Will, starts giving these out. They gave Ranni Blide, that's where Blide comes in, and Blide is meant to be the guy that if Ranni ever decides to, I don't know, overthrow the Golden Order for an Age of Stars, Blide is going to go feral and take her out, okay? And then when they try to do that for Miquella and Malenia, because they're both Empyreans, Miquella is the only one that becomes a full-blooded Empyrean, and Malenia forgoes her Empyrean right to become the Shadowbound Beast of Miquella. The only way where this isn't true, because let me just say this right now, bro. Miquella never once received a Shadowbound Beast, and Malenia didn't, so unless they both killed theirs, which they're meant to be equal in strength, that is how that's supposed to be done. So, Malenia became the Shadowbound Beast, or the Blade of Miquella. That is why they're so closely related. So now the only two people who can ascend to godhood right now, that is confirmed, is Miquella and Ranni. So Miquella has to find a consort. So Miquella decides to start, plotting a little bit. And she decides to get with Ranni's brother, Radahn. Yes, they're half brothers. And yes, Miquella is a guy. When I said that they were inbred, do you know what their things are? Okay, Malenia has been afflicted by the rot god, and Miquella is forever 12, and he has the powers of Cupid, and he can make everybody love them. So essentially Griffith, but 12 years old. That's really what it is. And the Griffith comparisons are going to go so hard in a bit, but that's essentially where it comes in. Radahn says no, and Miquella does not take this well, and that's going to come in later on to Miquella's plan, and Radahn decides, you know what, I want to live the pathway of the warrior. I'm going to go to Caelid, train in gravity magic with my homie Messmer. I know Messmer didn't train him, but we know that Radahn knew of Messmer because Messmer was in the military. And Radahn, before they sent, Messmer into the pocket dimension. And we know that Radahn knew of Godfrey because that's why he got the lion on his chest. So at this point in the timeline, this is slightly before Messmer got sent into the pocket dimension. And all that was really meant to do was, Ayo, Messmer, I don't really need you anymore, and I took the rune of death, or this might have been before. We're gonna send you into a pocket dimension called the realm of shadows, where you're gonna punish the people that hurt my people back in the day. So, Messmer, you're gonna have to go into there and just punish them for all eternity. What do you mean by all eternity, mother? I'm gonna lock you in there. Yes. Marika is such a bad mom. She only really cared for Godwyn as a son, and then just locked Mesmer in a pocket dimension outside of really reality for a little bit that she created when she ascended into godhood. So, at this point, Mesmer's been taken off the table, Godfrey has been exiled, and now Radahn wants to take up the mantle and train gravity magic. And that's how he earns the title Star Scourge Radahn, because he's told by the Alabaster Lords that there's an outer god in space and he's going to hold up the stars, otherwise being known as Star Scourge. Whereas the next one of the red-headed trio, that's going to be Rykard. You see, Rykard grew up kind of a mama's boy, and he really missed his dad too, so he just all around had issues, okay? And where Radahn was training to be a warrior, and Ranni was plotting the downfall of her stepmom, Rykard just decided, ayo dog, I'm just going to read books. And he read so many books in Raya Lucaria that he discovered the existence of the God-Devouring Serpent. Yes, the God-Devouring Serpent that he becomes of Lord of Blasphemy is different than the base serpent of Mesmer. They're different. They should be related, but I guess they're not. So that's where he goes into play. And he becomes basically like the de facto FBI leader, where instead of taking out like criminals of America, he takes out people that are committing blasphemy to the Golden Order. That applies to Frenzy, Outer Gods, all of them, and then brings them to Volcano Manor, where they get punished, all of that bad stuff, okay? Little do they know, Rykard becomes the Lord of Blasphemy, but that didn't happen yet. And that all leaves Ranni. Again, to preface, Miquella is hanging out with Malenia, tried to get with Radahn. Radahn said no, so Miquella, to keep Malenia alive, created a golden needle to stave off Outer Gods, and that applies to the Frenzy, and it also applies to the Rot Goddess. Okay, so that's what Miquella's doing right now, but quietly plotting. Ranni decides, ayo, I need to go ice Godwyn. And that perfectly leads into the biggest single event in the entirety of Elden Ring, that being the Night of Black Knives. Yes, we're finally here, boys. This is where now we're in trailer territory. You see, Lunar Princess Ranni was plotting the death of Godwyn the Golden, the favored son of Marika. I've already told you why that is. Mesmer was sent away. That was the other son. And Miquella can ascend to godhood. Malenia can no longer. And everybody's kind of doing their whole thing. I left out Mogan Morgott because they don't mean a lot in the story at this point. So this is where Ranni gets to become the main character. Ranni has a plan of stealing a fragment of the Death Rune that is held by Malekith and Farum Azula, imbue that into blades, giving them to the Black Knife Assassins, and having them assassinate Godwyn. No. Here's the problem with this plan. Nobody wants to F with Malekith. Everybody's terrified of Malekith. So she starts employing the help of her older brother, Rykard. Yes, Rykard is a bigger character in the story than you probably think. Rykard was actually one of the first people that was, set to help Ranni, but it was kind of like little bit of this, little bit of there, okay? Rykard does not like the Golden Order. He does not respect the way that they do things. He becomes the Lord of Blasphemy because guess what? He doesn't like the Golden Order, and he resents them for what they did to his mom and that they took his dad away. He forever resents the Golden Order, similar to Ranni, but where Ranni wants to replace it with the Age of Stars and let the stars dictate where the next age is going to go, Rykard wants to replace it with the world-devouring serpent and devour the gods. So, enemies of enemies become friends, okay? So, Rykard starts making a weapon that is designed to parry destined death. And you can get this by finishing the whole Rykard storyline. I don't want to get into the Tarnished yet, but yes, he did make a weapon to parry Malekith. Rykard was unironically looking to duel Malekith if the Black Knife Assassins were to fail. That's also, if you really want to go into it, the golden sword that you get, the Blasphemous Blade, is a direct counter to Destined Death. I really do like how they set that up, in the lore, but they don't say it. I'm sorry, I'm glazing it too much. Let's get back into the lore. So, Ranni recruits the Black Knife Assassins to steal a part of the Death Rune, which goes off without a hit, okay? So now, all of these Black Knife Assassins all now have a piece of the Death Rune, which, I'll say it again, has the ability to kill gods. And what is the god that they're going to take out in the Night of Black Knives? There's a few that are unnamed, because at this point, Godwyn has had a bunch of children. Godric and Godroy two of the multi-armed things. Yes, those are descendants of Godwyn directly, but we're gonna skirt over that because that doesn't really matter here. Godwyn, at this point, is about to get assassinated. Ranni devises this plan to keep him dead in order he cannot be resurrected. Kills the very soul of Godwyn by carving the rune of death into his back. And then Ranni, to fulfill the ritual, kills her body and in putting her soul inside of a doll. Godwyn dies in soul, but his body is alive, so he cannot be resurrected. And Ranni dies in the body, but her soul can be resurrected. That is the deal that Ranni did, killing Godwyn. And a few, bada bing, bada boom, a few things do happen. You see, Marika is on the verge of crashing out. She's trying to figure out what happened. The Black Knife Assassins go on an absolute insane run and kill a bunch of unnamed gods. Miquella is so pissed off that this happened because it's never stated, but I do believe Godwyn was on the sort list of becoming a consort. So Miquella makes these walking mausoleums where they put the demigods into because of something that happened. You see, Godwyn was a hero of the Golden Order, and one of the honors that they would do for the heroes of the Golden Order is bury them at the base of the Great Tree, or the Eardtree. And this is where Godwyn becomes the Prince of Death, and his body morphs into the Great Tree, and that's where Godwyn goes from hot to this clam chowder looking thing. Yes, Godwyn actually isn't dead, technically. His body is still alive, and that opens a whole realm of things that are really confusing. He had a pet dragon that wants to help him. He has something called, like, the Deathbed Companion that loves him, too, and they all just chill at the base of the Great Tree, and Deathblight is now going through the world, infecting creatures, and trying to claim more bodies of demigods. So Miquella creates the walking mausoleums to put the dead bodies of the demigods into them, so they can walk around, and they don't get claimed by Deathblight. Another thing that she attempts to do that I'm not going to get into is, I'm just doing it for the Griffith comparisons, is try to cause a Calypse to resurrect Godwyn so he can die a true death. I'm not going to elaborate on that because that's a whole other thing that I have to get into. I just want to further the comparison that Miquella is essentially Griffith. So Godwyn is dead, Ranni achieved her goal, Rykard is now realizing that the golden lineage is in danger, Radahn is readying his armies, Mohg and Morgott are distraught at the death of their brother, Morgott becomes Batman and starts the Knights Cavalry, and Mohg escapes to go worship the Formless Mother. So pretty chaotic. So, where do you think Marika is in all this? Do you think Marika is going to have a really calm response? Do you think she's going to let Messmer out of this pocket dimension because that's her only real son left? That's her directly hers? No, she's going to shatter the Elden Ring. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of an overreaction. She destroys the Elden Ring. And this is where, the Shattering Wars begin. This is now, we're at the point of, this is the end game. The Golden Order is now falling. Okay, all of that work, okay? Remember all this. Messmer is still sealed in a pocket dimension. Godfrey's dead at this point in the timeline. The armies against the Golden Order are now preparing, and now the Elden Ring has been shattered, and now the Greater Will is pissed, dude. No. They are so angry at Marika, they crucified her on a rune arc. Now, Radagon is also kind of in there, and the Greater Will is so pissed off at all of them, he sealed the Elden Beast, Radagon, and crucified Marika in the Elden Ring. But this is where it gets weird to me. And why I believe Radagon is a separate person from Marika, at least a split personality. Because you notice how you never fight Marika, you fight Radagon. And Radagon is described as a Golden Order fundamentalist. So that would mean that he would be against the shattering of the Elden Ring, and Radagon technically is not the father of Godwyn. So Marika, in a hissy fit, destroyed the Elden Ring, got her crucified, and Radagon and Elden be sealed within the Great Eardtree. So Marika really just effed everything up because her favorite son died. You have multiple kids. Chill a little bit, but that caused the initial Shattering, and now these Shattering Wars have begun, okay? And listen, this is a whole thing. I'm just meant to give you a basic understanding of how everything's playing out, okay? So, Miquella devises a plan. Actually, no, I don't want to do the Miquella plan. Let's play with this a little bit. One of the first armies that starts going against the Golden Order is Rykard. Rykard is actually seen as one of the most popular factions going against the Golden Order, because at this point, he was seen as the guy that purges blasphemy, okay? This is one of the fan favorite guys going up against Leyndell. So his armies start marching on Leyndell, and they cannot breach it. Leyndell was created as a place that was unsiegeable, and they are being defended by Morgott. Morgott is probably one of the coolest characters in the entirety of Elden Ring, because this is a guy that was hated from birth for a birth defect that he has no control of. But even in his dying breath, he defends the Golden Order against all the other children that Marika technically loved more at the bare minimum. So Rykard starts sending his armies against Leyndell. He loses because it's impossible to take Leyndell. And Rykard's so pissed off that he lost to Morgott, somebody that he saw as a lesser being, feeds himself to the god-devouring serpent to gain the power to devour gods, and then his own army start turning on him, aside from a few with Cesara's woman, and a few of the people that are in the Volcano Manor. So his loyal compatriots are now no longer there. So yeah, that's how Rykard became the Lord of Blasphemy. He just could not take a loss from Morgott because he didn't like that he lost to Morgott. That's essentially what happened. And now we're going to get into Miquella's plan, okay? Because now we can get into this. Miquella wants to start her own order. He wanted Malenia to be a Shadowbound Beast because he doesn't think that the Golden Order or the Greater Will would appreciate what his new order is going to be. One led through Compassion, which sounds good until you realize that he's basically Griffith. So what Miquella decides to do is he's going to send Malenia to slay Radahn. Okay, that's step one. And the reason he wants Malenia to slay Radahn is he's hoping that either Malenia is so injured that she's taken out of the fight, so he no longer has to go against her, and Radahn is slayed in that fight, because then he can take the soul of Radahn. And then, while this whole battle is going on, Miquella seduces Mohg to kidnap him out of the Hallowed Great Tree, and then put him into a cocoon where he can ascend to godhood in the realm of shadows and the gates of divinity. So, Mohg got Miquelested by Miquella. Yes, no, Mohg did beat the allegations, okay? Everybody thought Mohg kidnapped a 12-year-old. No, the 12-year-old tried to seduce him. That is going to be a really bad clip taken out of context. But no, technically, Miquella's 100 years old. He just looks like a 12-year-old. Ooh, that's even worse. So that's how Miquella ended up in the Mohgwyn Palace, and Malenia now is going to battle Radahn, okay? And let me just tell you something right now. This is where the promotional material that you probably saw when this game was first getting hyped up, Malenia versus Radahn. And the battle was so even that Radahn chopped off the mechanical arm of Malenia, allowing her to put it back on. And this is where Malenia hit him with basically a tactical nuke and destroyed the entirety of Caelid, infecting it entirely with rot. Scarlet rot, to be exact, okay? And even this was not enough to beat Radahn, who went crazy, yes, and became a rotting husk of himself, but still had enough in his mind to continue to hold up the stars. Yeah, no, Radahn is basically guts to Miquella's Griffith, okay? Radahn is him. So Radahn at this point has been kind of like left alone by his army, and that's how the Radahn festival has occurred, which I again have to preface this. I said this at the beginning of the video, how much time is passing while all this is going down. Radahn has been rotting for so long in that desert that his feet have literally grinded into dust by being whittled away by the sand. And they have built something called the Radahn Festival, where they send the greatest warriors against Radahn to finally give him a warrior's rest. So Radahn has been going through it. That's all I'm saying. Radahn has been going through it at this point. But if you remember, that means Miquella's plan can't really go forward because he needs the soul of Radahn, okay? So, Malenia gets dragged all the way back to the Hallowed Great Tree by one of her most loyal soldiers, where she is now absolutely depressed that Miquella, basically the only person that she loves, I know they're siblings, but this was made by George R.R. Martin, so get over it. So C just is super depressed, kind of like how Renala was when Radagon left. That's kind of meant to set up some parallels. And then Melania just stays at the Hollow Great Tree because they don't know where he went and they can't track down Mogwin. At this point, Ronnie is realizing that all of the major players of the Shattering have kind of been either taken themselves out like Rykard, been depressed and realized they can't do anything like Melania. Cut there. I accidentally called Melania Melina, and I know you guys were going to destroy me for that, so no Melania. C gets depressed and stays in the Hollow Great Tree. Mikola is still trapped inside of that cocoon. Mogwin is waiting for the Formless Mother so he can continue his dynasty. Radahn is rotting in a desert. Godwyn is dead. Morgott is continuing to defend Lanedale. I know I skipped a few events, like Radahn did battle Morgott and did lose the seeds, but Radahn survived. I just need that to be brought up. So we are still in the Shattering, but in a multiple century-long wait in utter stalemate. And that is where the Tarnished comes into play. We are now to the point where we are at, like, when you actually play the game, the journey of the Tarnished, okay? And most of you guys have played the game, I'm going to assume, by watching this, so you guys have an idea of what's going to go on. So I'm not going to go into the finer details, I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what I think the canonized journey of the Tarnished was. Okay, so as the Tarnished, you come to the Lands Between, you either get slayed by that multi-armed thing, or you fall off a cliff, okay? And then you come into the Lands Between, Melina sees you, and decides, ayo, if he can get through the Soldier of Godric, then I will be his maiden, and I will turn runes into power. And all runes are like little bits and pieces of the shattered Elden Ring, and the shards of the Elden Ring are like bigger pieces. So that's where you come into play. You slay a few bosses, a tree sentinel or two, you meet Margit, who's just Morgott, but when I said that Morgott's basically Batman and started the Knights Cavalry, he went by the name Margit. So really, that's just meant to be a misdirect, and he hears that somebody's coming to claim the Elden Ring, and then he duels you on the bridge, and then you beat him. So that's essentially what happened. But something that has to be stated is the reason why Margit is easier in the first boss fight that you're doing is he's canonically holding back by not using his Omen powers, which is something that he does in the final boss fight. You get through him, you go to the Round Table Hold, and then you meet this guy named Sir Gideon the Wise, who is a fellow Tarnished that's like a scholar of the Elden Ring and lots of forms of magic. And he wants to mend the Elden Ring, but he's gonna use you as the guy to do it, okay? That's basically what he's used for here. He's kind of a dick. I don't really like Sir Gideon. Kind of a fraud. Fraud-ish behavior, if I'm gonna keep it real with you. At this point, you've met Melina and Ronnie. Ronnie has given you the bell to summon the spirits. Ansie's given you Torrent, so now you can kind of do your own thing. Okay, I believe the Ronnie ending is the canon ending because, I'm sorry, like all the stuff that you have to do for Ronnie, that's probably is the canon ending, but let's continue this, okay? Part of Ronnie's plan is he needs a way to get into Notcron, the Eternal City, and one of the ways that she's going to do that is have you slay her brother Radahn, who's basically already dead, just put him down. So that's why you get sent to slay Radahn, and when you take him out, stars fall out of the sky because, again, he was the one holding those up, and they break a hole inside of the Lands Between that can get you to Notcron, where you grab a few things, and then boom, you continue Ronnie's questline. While this is going down, this is where Mikola's plan is coming into play, and Mikola wanted Radahn dead so she could grab the soul of Radahn. Now she needs the demigod body of Mohg, and that's why I do believe it's canon, where you have to beat Radahn and Mohg in order to access the DLC, because spoiler alert, Consort Radahn, the one that you fight at the end of the DLC for Elden Ring, is actually Mohg's body possessed by the soul of Radahn that has been brought back against his will, made into be the consort of Mikola. Yes, that was the plan of Mikola. Mikola deadass got rejected so hard that he waited until the death of Radahn to grab his soul out of his body and then blend it with the body of Mohg, which he also Mikolested to create Consort Radahn. Honestly, kind of insane how that's worked out, but that's basically the plan of him. Yeah, no, Miquella's basically Griffith. You cannot convince me otherwise. So now the Tarnished is moving through the lands between. He goes to fight Morgott and Leyndell. It's pretty dope. I'm skipping a few of the major events. Goes to fight Morgott and then beats him and then finds out, oh, wait a minute, I can't get in because there's thorns, so I have to burn them away. Oh, gee whiz, I really wish that there was an item that had the power to burn away the great tree. Yes, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the Giant's Cauldron's ability to burn down the Great Tree. That is why you go up there anyways. And Melena's meant to be the person that has the lore to explain this to you. And then you go all the way up to the saddle tops of the Giants. And there's a few ways that you could have done this. You can either use your handmaiding as kindling to light it again to burn down the Great Tree. Or you can go to the bottom of Leyndell, where again I said the frenzy is there. And then you get possessed by frenzy, and then you yourself are able to light the kindling of the cauldron to burn down the great tree. That doesn't really matter here. I don't believe the frenzy ending is the canon one. I do believe it is Ranni, but it is a kind of a cool thought that you could do. If you do this, Melina will try to take you out because you just committed blasphemy against her very god and religion. So I'm going to say, yeah, probably don't do that unless you want to keep her alive but still hate you anyways. But I don't know. And then you get teleported to Malekith's little domain, and then you go to claim the Death Rune because you kind of need that. Yeah, you need to go to Malekith to claim the Death Rune so you can finish this great journey of putting Marika and the Elden Beast down to dead. Because yes, the Death Rune has the ability to again slay gods. You need that to be able to achieve your journey. You go to Malekith, you're able to take him out, you grab a piece of the Death Rune, and then you get teleported to the final area, and that is the crumbling, basically the crumbling city of Leyndell at this point. Now, I've heard some ideas that this is actually what Leyndell looks like, and there's a weird time thing going on with Leyndell. I don't know. I think we're getting into like a weird thing about that, but at the same time, I do dig it. But anyways, at this point, the Tarnished is going up to Leyndell to finish there. In between this, you've probably gone to Volcano Matter and slayed the Lord of Blasphemy because his own people want him to be slayed because he's become an abomination to the very thing that he swore that he would never become. And then, while all this is going on, Ranni is low-key trying to get with you because you're the one that's going to become her consort. You had to slay Blaidd because Blaidd, again, is the Winter Soldier to take out Ranni. So you slay him, and then you become the new consort, the new mate of Ranni. So now all you have to do is the very simple thing of getting rid of the Elden Beast. You go up there, and then in the arena where you fought Morgott is Godfrey. Now, I cannot stress this enough how major of an event this is, okay, in terms of, like, how cool this is. Godfrey is brought back because you now have the Rune of Death. That is why he is here. So now you go over there, and then Godfrey, which is essentially your Jesus, by the way, the leader of your tribe, you killed his son. You basically killed the son of Jesus. And now Godfrey's looking at you like, okay, your strength befits a crown. After he says goodbye, Morgott, the son that he practically got banished for, you got rid of. And that is why Godfrey is trying to take you out. One of the coolest boss fights in the entire game, and I love the lore behind it, that you are a Tarnished trying to mend the Elden Ring, but then Godfrey doesn't like you because you slayed Morgott, and he wants to still be Elden Lord. It's a cool moment, awesome boss fight, but you take him out, and then you go to see Marika. Marika then becomes Radagon, because Radagon isn't in as much trouble, and then you beat Radagon, who's become stone at this point, because he's practically fossilized in there, because he's been possessed by the Elden Ring, and then the Elden Ring turns into the Elden Beast, because they are the same thing, and then you take out the Elden Beast, and then you have a choice. You either burn it down with the Frenzied Flame, you do the Aids of Duskborn, the Aids of the Dung Eater, which are not even worth talking about, they're not even close to canon, or you start the Aids of Stars ending with Ranni, which I do believe is the canon one because it does make sense for Ranni to be able to get all of this because she's the one that inadvertently started the Shattering, and then you start the Aids of Stars with Ranni. Now, the ending of the DLC is meant to be before the ending of the game, so I'm going to treat it like that. So you go into the Realm of Shadows through the cocoon of Miquella, where there's Miquella's followers, and then they are kind of with you because they want to think of them as like the new Band of the Hawk after Griffith comes back. And then you go through, you meet Mesmer, you put Mesmer the rest. That is why Mesmer says in his dying breath, and he curses Marika, because he believes that you are sent by Marika to assassinate him, which is, again, really sad when you think about all Mesmer's character really is a son that wants to be loved by his mother, and Marika is a mother that cannot love her son. Which is really cool storytelling-wise. And that's why I really do like Mesmer the Impaler as a character. I really think he's a dope concept. And then you go all the way up to Miquella, where that is at the gates of divinity, trying to ascend the godhood similar to Marika. And then you go over there, and you have to fight Consort Radahn and Miquella, thus ending his new age, where he becomes the person that is the god of the age of Compassion. And then at that point, that's where the whole Godfrey and Radagon and Elden Beast stuff happens. And that is essentially the entire lore of Elden Ring. I have to preface this the most basic way possible. All I meant to do is give you an idea of what's going on so you can see some more in-depth videos of how things going on and the finer details of, well, what was that like? What was that like? I cannot preface enough. All this video was meant to do is give you a basic understanding of how the lore of Elden Ring works, and really just explaining it like how I want it to be explained to me, like a bro. And there you go. That is the Elden Ring lore video, bro. It is so weird to finally get this done. I'm sure I probably got a few things wrong, and I'm sure people are going to let me know in the comment section. And here's the thing, if I got something wrong, let me know. But to my knowledge, this is the way that I would want to explain to me, and it honestly just feels almost euphoric to finally get this one done. I've been teasing this video ever since I got to 30,000 subscribers. To my YouTube people, you guys probably don't know this, I got my start in, like, this type of content creation because of Elden Ring. I probably would never have started an EthanOnEverything YouTube if it weren't for Elden Ring. Because, like, on TikTok, I went from, like, 60,000 followers to 250,000 followers in, like, 2 weeks. Because I was breaking down the lore of Elden Ring for the people of TikTok. And, honestly, man, this almost feels like... It feels crazy finally getting this one done. I'm sure there's a few flaws. I'm sure I'm going to look back on this video and say, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. But at the end of the day, that is what I've learned through my content creation journey. Sometimes you just have to get the stuff done and then look back in hindsight and been like, well, I could do better. And then you make better videos. And then we just continue to go on in this relationship between I create content, you guys watch it, you guys let me know what you think. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm getting a little bit sappy here. It's honestly crazy to be able to get this one done. If you want another dedicated lore history video, even like I'm playing with like some other stuff that I want to do, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to 250 by the end of the year. And with all that out of the way, have a good day, guys.